Hey, wonderful people. Welcome to another episode of the One Wildlife podcast with me, Abbie Barnes. Really pumped to be hanging out with you guys today. Thank you for joining me with a brand new episode of the show. We have got a fantastic conversation today with Mark, and I'm not going to give anything away about the conversation, but what I would just say is a mild trigger warning. You know, we do talk about PTSD, various mental health conditions, suicidal ideation, and just generally a conversation around mental health as a whole. So if you're feeling slightly vulnerable and you don't think it's the right time to listen to that, then please step away. This episode will be here for as long as possible in the future, so feel free to dip back in when you're feeling a little bit more grounded and ready to handle that. But for those of you guys who are tuning in today, I just want to start by saying a massive thank you to everybody within my Patreon community. Now, I say this every episode, Patreon is a platform created for creators, such as myself, to help us put content out there and basically on my part to inspire and empower people to get outside for the benefit of mental and physical health. I am so passionate about this. Now, Patreon is a membership subscription based platform. I have various tiers that I've completely sculpted myself. I'm completely in control, and so are you guys. I have created this platform for you. Whichever tier you choose, there's awesome things to get involved with, whether it's our Facebook group, whether it's to get postcards and waffles and letters from me around the world, whether it's to join fireside events and get sort of coaching and group activities around different hikes and expeditions, or something else entirely. Have a look at it. It's patreon.com/spend more time in the wild, and hopefully you guys will be joining me and my worldwide network of awesome people sometime soon on Patreon. And that is the way I keep these episodes advert free. They are completely powered by the community. So with that all out there, let's dive in to today's episode. Mark Charlie Valentine is deeply passionate about promoting the many benefits towards improved physical health and mental well-being through spending time outdoors, and this theme can be seen running through all avenues of his work. He is a winter and international mountain leader, a climbing coach and rock climbing instructor, and is the director of and instructor at Your Mountain Adventure. But Mark has not always worked in the hills and the mountains. After dealing with a horrific incident whilst working as a bouncer in Leeds, Mark discovered firsthand the power of time spent outside in nature as he sought to find ways that empowered him through his diagnosis of PTSD. The award-winning film, The White Fox, follows Mark's journey from doors to hills, and he's now also presenting the White Fox Talking podcast. Today, we get the exciting opportunity to talk with Mark about all things outdoors and mental health. So Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Abbie. Nice to see you again.
Absolutely. We met up in Keswick earlier this year at the festival, wasn't it? That was a good event. Second day was a bit of a washout.
Yeah, but I came and saw you. It was dry in the tent that you were talking in, so
absolutely.
That was quite good.
Yeah, good old little TP. No, I'd be really interested, Mark, to dive in. I've actually just recently rewatched the film that you guys produced a couple of years ago, and we'll come back to that sort of further down the length of the conversation. But obviously, yes, now you're a very outdoorsy type. You make your living out in the hills and talking about the power of adventure for improved mental health. But has the outdoors always played a pivotal theme in your life, or is it something that's reasonably recently appeared?
I think as a young person growing up back in the 70s, yeah, you won't believe it, would you? Back in the 70s, then there wasn't much option. We played out. That was it. We went out and we were allowed to go wherever. My mum would think I was playing football in the next street, but I'd be off miles and miles away, and we'd be off in the woodlands and the fields, sort of surrounding Leeds. And then in my teenage years, I started getting a bit more adventurous and jumping on a bus and going up to the, with my £1 pocket money that I'd get per day to get myself something to eat. And I'd jump. Yeah, you could basically get a bus anywhere in West Yorkshire, and I'd be off up Ilkley, and I'd be doing a little bit of clambering around the rocks. No idea of risk, no idea of not even thinking of injuries or things. Perception of danger. It would just. I mean, I had to say it was a different time. We were, there were just kids going off all over and getting up to adventure or getting up to mischief. Yeah, and I'm not saying which one mine always was. So, but yeah, It's where, yeah. So we were out, and it was one of them where I had to be home by the time the street lights came on. Which we don't think, I think a lot of young people, they don't get that opportunity now. I think people are a bit more risk aware or risk averse, so yeah, it was a different time, definitely.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that, isn't it? And it's funny. It's a lot of people, when they come on this podcast, we're talking about how did you get into the outdoors, and everybody sort of says the same. As a kid, they'd just be out and about doing adventure / mischief, depending on the day or the opinion. And what I'd be interested to hear, do you have an opinion or a take on this? Like, why that has changed so much in recent years, that young people are perhaps arguably more on screens and less outside?
Well, I think parents are a little bit more conscious of certain bad aspects of life, as in with the danger that sort of young people can be in, children can be in, but also then this thing with the screens, with the video screens. A lot of young people are not interested in going outside because they get a stimulus by playing these what they call machines, PS4s or whatever.
Yeah.
I know when I work in education intervention for a company, and a lot of the time the kids they seem to be stuck on games like Fortnite, which I've no idea, I've never played, but their full life revolves around these games. So I mean, in one way they're getting a stimulus, but they're not actually. It's a brain stimulus, but they're not doing anything physical. And then I think because the physicality, I think a lot of, for myself, I think schools are coming back round now where they're doing woodland schools and things like that. But there's been, for the last couple of decades, there's been a big focus on academical awards, which has meant pressure on the timetables, which has then meant certain things like, I mean, we had gardening club and things like that at my school when I was a kid. And because I'd misbehaved at some point, I got thrown into the gardening club. It was amazing. Learning about plants and trees and flowers, and they're taking us out tree planting. And that was back in the sort of mid-80s, before tree planting was a necessity. And you're thinking, well, that's what the bad kids do. Well, not bad kids. That's what I got as a punishment. And you're thinking, but that's amazing. That's hands-on, dirt under the fingernails. And now it's a lot of it is this academia for myself. So I think a lot of the adventure, I think the hands-on learning. So what we do is with these young people, they're not in formal education at the minute, through either learning difficulties or behavioural difficulties, and we're taking them out and we're teaching them climbing, and we're teaching them, some other guys take them kayaking, or we're taking them walking, doing navigation stuff. So they're getting these personal skills as well as the learning. Yeah, so they're I mean, for me, they're the lucky ones. Yeah. I know when I was at school, I never got a chance of like D.A.V. or anything like that, but I mean, in my past, in the last few years since the years that when I first started getting my Mountain Leader Award and things like that, there I was working D.A.V. and I'm thinking, this is such a great award, but it's not accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame, really, because there is a financial cost and a time cost. Obviously, it's time off school sometimes for the training and things.
Absolutely. No, there's some really interesting thoughts there. And I mean, you mentioned just getting kids into outdoor activities. And I think potentially, there is a debate that opportunities are becoming more widely available, particularly as schools and people of educational significance, are recognizing the power of kids getting outside. But if, say, a parent was just listening to this conversation right now and their kid was struggling at school, or in whatever sense that might look like, and they want to try and find something that is a bit more hands-on for their child, where could they start in terms of finding accessible routes for their kid?
There's so much information out there now about doing routes, if it's walking or if it's any outdoor activity. I mean, I don't do the water sports myself. I have done myself, but I have done in the past, but I don't teach them. But I mean, if just getting outdoors, and I think it's getting young people engaged in something that they're going to get fun out of, but they're also learning whilst they're doing that. And they might not actually realize that they're learning. Yeah, I know there are a lot of people now offering sort of bushcraft and survival skills, which young people really seem to enjoy. They seem to enjoy things with axes and fire. And
Wonder why.
yeah, but I mean, they're all important skills, and I think a lot of the time it's just like, oh, there's so much risk involved, giving a kid an axe to chop some wood. Well, if they're supervised, if they talk correctly, then we minimize that. But these are all vital skills. I mean, the horror on people's faces when you see you've got kids running around with knives chopping wood. If it's done in a controlled environment, then the young people, they're getting an adventure, they're getting an experience that they're learning skills. They're learning these little things. I don't know if you can hear someone chopping wood actually outside. I don't know if you're picking that up on that microphone.
Not quite.
Oh, that's good.
You've added sound effects in the background then.
Yeah, well, very timely. That sounds like someone with an electric chainsaw or something. Yeah, so I think woodland schools, bushcraft courses. I know in the school holidays, it might be. I think the pressure's on parents at the moment financially, because back in my day was back when I was a kid, most mums were stay-at-home mums. So the kid could go out and could be unsupervised or going in and out of the house all day. We can't do that now. A lot of the time. And that you do hear of kids that are just staying all day playing their console because the parents know where they are. Difficult times, unfortunately. With you said there, or alluded there, to the schools and sort of people that work with young people, getting them back involved in the outdoors. I think it's coming round full circle, because the academically wise, yes, it's good for these young people to get good results that hopefully gets them a better start off into an apprenticeship or university, something like that. But with the outdoors, it's giving people some time off to rest their brain from them as subjects, from studying, which is super important in my mind.
Yeah, totally. No, absolutely. Really, really valid thoughts there, I feel. So did you grow up in Leeds? It was certainly Yorkshire, wasn't it?
I did, yes. I was grown up, born and bred in Yorkshire, in Leeds. You might be able to tell. Apparently, I've got a regional accent. I don't know what some people. Yeah, yeah. Funnily enough. Born and bred in Leeds. Never really went out on day trips with my parents, but apart from that, there wasn't much travelling done. And then I sort of got, like I say, I got into jumping on buses by myself and going off and doing a bit of woodland stuff.
Yeah.
And then in my sort of 20s, got into mountain biking, got into Thai boxing, got into a bit of traveling and things like that. Yeah, so I started traveling about then. But the constraints of life then sort of curtailed any outdoor interest because of the pressures of paying a mortgage and having children and things like that. Yeah.
So is that how you sort of came to find yourself working on the doors in Leeds, or was that something you'd actively pursued?
No, what actually happened was I was working as a print engineer. I had quite a good job actually, and then I was attending a football match away over in Turkey. That's where the actual incident happened, and there was an attack on a bar by a group of local people in Istanbul, and unfortunately I witnessed somebody getting stabbed, and while I was trying to administer first aid, there was a couple of attempts on my life, which I didn't realise at the time, but sort of, it was one of them where everything you sort of act and you do whatever. I was trying to give, like I said, give first aid. Somebody tried to attack me with an iron bar from behind, which I managed to just see and sort of duck out of the way, which struck me across the back. And then, unfortunately, the local police intervened and continued to beat me with truncheons for a while I'm trying to administer first aid. And then we took the gentleman to, it was a guy that I knew. We managed to get him into the back of a police car, took him to hospital, but unfortunately he died. And then it was a bit of a roller coaster afterwards, because it was broadcast on media. So couldn't really go anywhere, couldn't do anything, and then it started to manifest itself as PTSD. Well, it manifested itself in drinking, basically. And sometime afterwards, a couple of weeks afterwards, I went to see my GP because I wasn't sleeping. I said, I need to sleep. And she said, listen, I've been waiting for you to come in. I expected you to come in because I've seen it all on the TV. And she got me straight in with Leeds Mental Health, and I managed to get in for some counselling. So I did. That started to process 6 months of counselling, which at the end of it, I mean, at the start of it, I didn't need it. I'm like, I don't need it. I don't know. It's like, we're just, you just crack on at that time, man up and all sort of, man up, get a grip, sort yourself out, stiff upper lip sort of thing, which are all bullshit. Am I allowed to swear? Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Which are all bullshit. And then at the end of it, Alison, my counsellor, turned around to her and says, listen, thank you. This was after 6 months. We'd gone from 5-10 minutes of chatting to an hour and a half of sat back to back while I explained just basically picking bits out of my brain from the PTSD and processing it. And what she sort of did was says, well, all this information's gone into your brain. Your brain's sort of rewired itself to protect you, but we need to get it into the outbox. I mean, you can't process it unless it's in the outbox.
Okay.
And picking these little bits of information, and I'd be talking about the incident, and she would say something. And one thing that stands out is, I remember there was a guy running down the street with a chair, and he was about to hit somebody, and she just went, "What was he wearing?" And I went, "Bleached jeans, yellow shirt," and I broke down because it was something that I didn't know was whirling about in there, and it was like, wow, but it helped process it. And then at the end of it, I said to her, thank you, I think, what for what you've done to me. And she says, when you came in here, we gave you a score 30 out of 30 for PTSD and 29 out of 30 for depression. And we thought you'd be dead within 4 weeks because you'd probably drank yourself to death. But I had 2 daughters, so that one wasn't really an option. So it wasn't great. It was, I mean, the counselling people of that time gave me a lot of grief for going to counselling because I spoke about it, and it's one of them, what you went to counselling for, sort yourself out. Now at this moment, because I do talk about it, I don't hold any malice or anything to them people because they don't understand. And I think at that time, that's society's problem. And it still is, with the stigma of sort of mental health and mental well-being. But following that, that's when I got into working on the working doors. Basically, I wasn't working. The company that I was working for wanted rid of me because I'd not been working, and obviously I had this stigma of mental health when I was trying to apply for jobs, and it's like, well, you've not worked for a year. What you've been doing? I've been diagnosed with PTSD. Yeah, you're not working. So that was that was a bit of a problem. But I didn't need a CV to start working on the doors. So I took a bit of work working with some friends that I trained with because I used to do a bit of Thai boxing and trained boxing, trained Thai boxing. And a guy said to me, would you come and help us on the door? And he says, it's not because of any sort of, it's not fighting ability, it's where you talk to people and we know that you can conduct yourself all right. It's not about, I wasn't the biggest lad in the world because when I was Thai boxing, I was only fighting at 73 kilos, I think, which is tiny for a doorman. So I ended up doing that for just to earn a bit of money. And then it turned out a few years later that the guy had actually asked me because when I wasn't working, I was in the bar drinking anyway.
Okay.
So it stopped me drinking. So that went on for about, excuse me, that went on for about 7 years. Okay. And then, as I don't know if you remember in the chat that I did, there was a wake-up moment when I got up one morning and I was brushing my teeth. And as I started brushing my teeth, my belly was going in the opposite direction. And I thought, this is not me, this is not me. I need to get fit. And then that's when I started going out walking. And then with the walking stuff, I just thought, I want to get back into the outdoors because I used to love the outdoors, you know what I mean? But I'd not done it. I was working 6 nights a week working 6 nights a week as a bouncer. I'd never seen daylight.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a great lifestyle. So you take a couple of cans home on a night and have to decompress after a night's work. You'd have a drink, and I think that's part of the sort of British culture, isn't it? Sort of everyone reaches out for a drink. Or they did in my day. I think young people now are turning the back on alcohol quite a bit, which is not a bad thing, or the excess, because I used to just drink to excess, I'll be honest. And then it was just a steady progression into the outdoors, into me going out and taking this, what spare time I had would be spent out going walking. And it just grew from walking around the Yorkshire Dales to going a bit further abroad. We got further afield, going around Britain, and then, as I say in that film, it came in. It was instead of me going out on an evening, planning to go out on an evening, because I knew I was going away walking the next morning, I'd be packing my bag, getting my food ready, and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, rather than getting home at 4 in the morning. And going away for the day, or going away for a couple of days, and spending an awful lot of time alone, which I hadn't really done because I was using alcohol and I'm going to say socializing, but I'd say partying as a crutch or an escapism. That was my escape method. And then what happened was that escapism turned to the mountains, which was another form of, I was escaping the escapism. But that was it. Yeah. So I went from PTSD to escapism, and now I always say it's in realism now, because I'm actually working and passing the skills that I've learned and passing them to other people, I hope.
Yeah, well, it's an incredible journey that you've been on, and it almost feels like, I don't know, when I was sort of writing that introduction piece and just stalking you generally online, it sort of felt like you've been through this immense refining process, like getting back to the pure essence of who you are as a person and your passion, and almost like this journey dealing with the PTSD has kick-started that. And if you don't mind, we'll come to sort of your outdoor career in a moment, because I'd really like to dig into what's your journey in getting all of those qualifications and then actually taking people out into the hills has been like. But if I'd like to just sort of hover around the diagnosis of PTSD just for a moment, because I feel like it's something that is talked about, but it still carries so much stigma. It's still sort of, I don't know, uttered under the breath, if that makes sense. Yeah. And is that something that you feel is improving in terms of people's perception and awareness of PTSD? Or would you feel that things are pretty stagnant and slowly moving there?
It's difficult. I think in some people are very aware. One question I always get asked, if you mention PTSD, people say, where did you serve? As in, were you in the forces? Now, PTSD can manifest itself from anything, really. When I was getting my counselling, the lady there, she explained to me that, because I didn't want to talk about it, because there was that big stigma about this man up thing at the time, and I didn't want to talk about things, and she explained that basically she gets people in there from car crashes, from house fires, from other incidents such as childhood trauma, childhood abuse, sexual abuse, that can all manifest itself as PTSD. And explained to me that at that time, she said, your mine was one of the most traumatic things she did, and she wanted, and that's how she's like, listen, you need to process it through. Now, lately, I didn't start talking about mine until 2015, 2016, I think. And that's because, one, I didn't want to talk about mental health, because it was like, we don't talk about these things. I didn't want to sort of disappoint people that I'd relied on drinking so much. And it's like an admittance that you've relied on alcohol. And I know, like, alcohol is, to that excess is seen as a demon, but at the time for me, it was a crutch. And I've got to sometimes think, and I'm not defending alcohol, I'm not defending myself. I'm just thinking, well, where would they have been if not? Because I might, instead of getting drunk, I might have done something stupid, or more stupid. But recently, because of the podcast that I'm now doing, and I'm learning, and I'm doing an awful lot of Audible. Is it Audible? I'm not advertising for them. But what I generally do is, because I spend a lot of time driving to and from the mountains, I get the Audible on, and I thought I like to learn. I like to learn from what I'm. It's even if I'll go to watch a film, I like to watch a true story, biographies and things like this. And there's an awful lot of reading I've been doing about PTSD, and it's quite shocking. I think it's quite shocking the way mental health is now coming to the forefront because of the actual numbers. And I think some of the media still turn away from it. Which I think we're getting a slightly different subject. I know you mentioned that you've not been very well recently, but because of that situation that we've had over the last couple of years, the amount of mental health issues that we're looking at, and if people aren't diagnosed, then what, the problems coming from people struggling through their mental health, such as drinking, drugs, violence, criminality, the results of not treating mental health are massively more expensive and difficult to deal with than actually dealing with the mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Symptom management, isn't it, as opposed to actually looking at the root cause of things.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I know, because we live in a results-based society. So if we try and treat all the population, or gives guidance to the population, where we say, well, if you're going out walking, if you're finding a sport, if you're going out breathing fresh air, getting exercise, eating a good diet, then you're possibly not going to struggle with some of the problems that people struggle with now. But that means we've no idea of measuring the results. And the results, if we treat 100,000 people, then we've got a result there. We've got facts there that we can work with. So then funding gets given. Funding, we're not getting funding to put a fruit and vegetable shop at the end of every street, but we're quite happy to put a McDonald's there. Oh.
Say it as it is, Mark. Come on.
Yeah, well, it's true, isn't it? It's true. It's all for me. The more that I never profess to be the sharpest tool in the box, but I can see these links that physical health, diet, getting out and doing things that engage the brain, that are not just academical, so people are learning life skills. Then it all comes together, and it's all some of it's meditative, some of it's medicinal, without it being prescribed a medicine.
Yeah.
For me, that was quite deep, wasn't it?
That was very profound. Yeah, I feel very enlightened. No, one of the things that really strikes me about you that I liked straight away when we came and listened to your talk in Keswick is you just say stuff as it is. And I really appreciate that. It's very refreshing, because I think, when it comes to mental health, it certainly, it's a subject that needs to be approached with sensitivity, but there's also needs to be a bit of a reality check, sort of the slap around the face with the wet fish about the situation that we're dealing with, and the inaccessibility of the system, and also the quality of what people are actually being provided with when it comes to care. I'm not shy talking about my own mental health journey and how, I ended up in secondary care with a care coordinator, and then COVID hit, and because I couldn't get to my appointments, basically they just pulled the support that I was getting, and just left completely hanging during this very turmoil induced time. And I'm certainly not alone in how hard that experience has been. And still, despite similar to you being very open and passionate about seeing people get outside, because it is powerful for our mental and physical well-being, it's also, I just find myself hitting my head against the wall, because the challenges with the system, and it's like, I still need support. I don't know about you managing your mental health and your PTSD, but it's like, it still feels impossible for me to find, despite being like 12 years down the line on this journey. So is your PTSD something you still have to actively manage?
Do you know what? In recent years, since I've started talking about it more, like I said, so I think about 2016, and what had happened then is I'd gained my winter mountain leader, which is quite a tough award. Stood on the Cairngorm Plateau in the dark in a 40-mile-an-hour crosswind, trying to navigate in snow, and it's sort of seen as a decent level. And I thought, do you know what, I've got that. But what had happened was, two guys that I knew had taken their own lives just in the years before that, and I thought, well, why did I not? If I had said something, I think there's a lot of guilt with although it has been my mind. One, because the way my PTSD was caused, and somebody died. Now, it took me a lot of convincing that I would not have been able to help that guy, even if it had been in a trauma centre. And then these other two guys taking their own lives. I mean, you know, seemingly outgoing, happy, family, all this, just took their own lives. And I thought, well, if I'd have told people what I'd have gone through, would that have made a difference? Now, my own PTSD, sometimes, yeah, I know, but I know what the triggers are now. I still can't go in a restaurant and sit with my back to a door. And I think that's because, you know, I was attacked from behind. So that's, I mean, my girlfriend's all right with it now. She can cope. And I get that chair. But, you know, at first times when someone pulls a seat out and you've got to sit with your back to your door, I'm like, why are you looking over your shoulder every 2 minutes? So, yeah. And then I think the actual, because, like I said, I'm doing quite a lot of reading, listening, learning. And I mentioned to someone else last week about a book called The Body Keeps the Score about PTSD. And it's hard going and some of it's horrific what you're listening to. But I was listening, I'm like, I could see them traits in myself. And it's because you've got an explanation for your own behavior and your own thought pattern. And you're thinking, well, maybe I'm not as strange as I thought I was. You know, there are reasons why this has happened, and other people have been through these, what I would say were much more traumatic reasonings for being diagnosed with PTSD. It's a difficult one because I think some people don't get the opportunities. I think, you know, we alluded there to what's happened over the last few years, services taken away, people trying to not being able to get into services like yourself. But if one statistic that I brought up on my chat was, I think the government gave £5 million extra to help suicide prevention services in 2022. But in 2021, they gave 4.3 billion for PPE that went straight in the skip. And that's the sort of measure, you know what I mean? So, so why can't people access these services? People can't access the services because if everyone goes and everyone got diagnosed with their mental health, it's not going to look good, is it? You know, it's not going to look great. But, you know, I think you're fighting a system, and I know it might even come back to this man up where I do think you've got to help yourself to a certain, I'm not saying man up at all, but I think at the moment people have got to help themselves and help each other, which is why it's good that someone like yourself can speak, because I thought your talk at Keswick was really good and open and inspiring. And then people like myself, I mean, the more that people like us talk, the more that I get asked about things. So I spoke to a lovely lady last week, Becca Abbie, who'd done the Ice Mile swim about her PTSD, and she'd actually come to the talk, and then I did a podcast with her last week, and it's the first time she spoke about it. Wow. And she's like, well, she says my talk gave her the power to talk about herself, and I think that's part of it's like a self-counseling. So you're talking, for myself, if I kept everything I knew about the PTSD and the process I went through, which was horrendous, and if I kept it to myself and didn't speak to people, I'd be a bit selfish, I think, you know what I mean? Because I'm trying to help people at the end of the day, so it is rewarding as well. I do get something out of it.
No, I think it's brilliant what you're doing, and absolutely. I just think the more of us that can talk, we create space for others to talk, and, you know, sort of just all take hands in this mission to create a lighter, freer world, I feel.
Yeah. Now, I mean, why is there a stigma about mental health?
Exactly. I don't know.
We've all got it. We've all got it.
Exactly.
Everybody's got mental health, whether it's good mental health or poor mental health at some time. You know, the statistics are there. Is it 1 in 4?
1 in 4
people will be suffering. It's ridiculous. I'm actually recording a podcast this evening about PMDD, which you know, and the statistics there: 15% of women that suffer with PMDD will try and take their own lives at some point.
Yep, it's definitely.
So it's it's there and it's all around us.
So you mentioned PMDD there, and that might be an unfamiliar or new term for some people. So it'd be interesting actually if you just evolve that a little bit for us, purely for the sake of, I think when it comes to mental health challenges that people can deal with, when you're kind of newly entering into this world, it can be quite shocking, sort of the range and diversity of different diagnoses and, dare I say the word, labels that people can be given. So how come sort of PMDD has come up, and what other mental health challenges have you had conversations with people about on your podcast?
So PMDD, which is, it's me getting my words out with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Yeah. So it's all around the menstrual cycle, but it can manifest itself as in there are lots of symptoms, and if somebody has 5 or more symptoms, they can receive a diagnosis. But like I say, it's not just, I think this would be a great example, such as the man up thing, where people would say, you're on your period, get over it. And it's not like that, there's all these mental health issues attached. And like I said before, if 15%, or I think it's 5.5% of the 5.5% of ladies during oh God, what's the word now? Can suffer with this. Yeah, it can cause a problem, and 15% of them can then attempt to take their own lives. But then it's also the issues of depression and over binge eating or not binge eating or not. There's so many different symptoms to it. And these can then affect relationships, can affect work, can affect home life, can affect sort of, the ability to look after oneself and looking after other people, or relationships with other people. So I think this is, mental health is, like I said before, we've all got it. Yeah. And it depends how it manifests itself and the results of it. I think when I was going through my sort of counselling, they give everything a score. And Alison, who was counsellor, would say, well, on a Monday morning, somebody might wake up with like 4 out of 30 depression. Yeah, because it's a Monday morning.
Yeah.
So it's not like everybody's running at, some people are running at 0 and skipping through sunflower fields all the time, because life don't work like that. People have their ups and downs, but sometimes it affects people differently.
Absolutely.
But it's how it works. And now, and again with the sort of depression, depression can just come on to anyone at any time. It doesn't have to be caused by something. I think it's weird the way I think when I try and explain it, it's weird that because I had an incident, I had a solid incident, traumatic incident, and I can put my problems back to that, or I can put my mental health issues and problems back to that. So I find that quite sort of easy for me, because there is something there that I can go back to. And yes, it was horrendous. I wish it hadn't have happened, but it's not something that sort of crept up on people, so people, with various different mental health problems there's not sort of an explanation. I think for, if you sat in a group of people and like people are suffering with anxiety, depression again, like, and stress and things like that. And it's like, well, if you haven't got a situation, if you haven't got an explanation for that, then it's like, well, where's it come from? Yeah. But we've got all these chemicals flying around in his brains, and if there's a different, the balance isn't right. I think I'll go back to it again with the diet and things like that. These can build up over time.
Absolutely. It's funny, actually. I've got just on the sticky note right in front of my computer is the 5 ways to well-being. Sort of the 5 thing, almost like that checklist that we can go through ourselves. Like, am I meeting? Am I connecting? Am I spending time in nature? Am I eating good food? Am I moving? These very simple things that you can sort of just quickly run through. And I find it very helpful, actually, because I deal with chronic pain, as well as sort of chronic mental illness, and quite often at some point every single day I find myself like hitting the wall, just being like, I can't cope with this. And then I'll go through that list and just be like, okay, what feels like it's accessible right now? And then like I take an active step in that, like I'll just go outside and move or do something. And just without a doubt, it, you know, it at least leaves me feeling empowered. And
Yeah.
I think that seems to be, you know, quite a common theme between the two of us. We're really just trying to empower people, to help them not be afraid of the mental challenges that they're dealing with, and to know that there are things that they can do to feel empowered to continue moving through them, and learning more about themselves in order to harness the power of what they're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I'm still on that learning.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It's not like I would say I'm not an expert in mental health. I'm definitely not an expert in my own mental health,
yeah.
because I'd have probably done it very differently. I remember going back to the COVID thing, because I lived by myself at the time in a flat, and I'm like 3 weeks into sat in a flat by myself,
Yeah.
just watching TV. And I realised that the only person that I was talking to was the lady in Tesco's when I went and bought my cans of beer.
Yeah.
And that's when I just went, this, no, and I think it was this. I think what I want to try and do now is looking at what I've gained from mental health, which is like some strength and resilience. And you should do this yourself, because you're now talking about it. You should take it, give yourself a pat on the back sometimes, rather than I can be my own worst critic, but then sometimes you just got to think, well, look where you've been, you know. So what I did was I just thought, this is getting out of hand. This is getting ridiculous. It's going back to my old drinking days. And I got my mountain bike out. And I don't mind saying, and if the police want to come round, I broke some COVID. Look, I stayed out for more than an hour a day doing exercise. But if I hadn't stayed out for more than an hour a day, then they might have been coming round to find me in a totally different situation, or I might have done something daft. Now, I wasn't seeing anyone. I wasn't sort of meeting with anyone. I was just going out on my bike. You know what I mean? So which it makes it so disappointing when people were getting fined for going walking. I can see.
This is touching a chord.
Yeah, you're just ready to get angry, because we all know, everybody knows it was just so ridiculous. Yeah, it was so ridiculous. And I think, but some people took it as solid. That's right. This is what we have to do. This is in our best interests. Well, yeah. If it's going to protect you from catching something that may cause you serious illness or death, then fair enough. But we've all got to make our own decisions. As in, right? Listen. At the end of the day, I'm going round. I am absolutely going bananas here. Sat in my house. I mean, I don't watch news anymore. I can't watch it, because it just gave me so much. It was leading me down a path of sort of depression and, what's going to happen? I've lost me, there was no work. I had no work on the doors and no work. Funnily enough, I just got over a broken back. So,
gosh.
Yeah, I think, and the Christmas before in 2019, a car ran into my car, and the results of which, I ended up with 2 fractured vertebrae. So I had 3 months off anyway. I had 3 months off, and then went into bloody lockdown, and I'm like, can't go with it. No. So yeah, but just that simple act of getting the mountain bike out and going down. I was going down the canal towpaths, and that's what sort of brought me back from, right, instead of going just sat drinking all day in the house by myself or in the flat by myself.
Yeah, no, that's the power of movement. I love it. So
exercise,
absolutely.
There's proven endorphins and all the chemicals released by doing exercise. You know what I mean?
I mean, I get excited just thinking about exercise. So one step ahead. Anyway, let's move on to your qualifications, because you've mentioned your winter mountain leader there, but for people who are new to sort of mountain training and what they do, would you mind sort of talking people through the process of becoming a mountain leader, and then where you can sort of go from there?
Yeah, so I mean, I became a mountain leader sort of by accident. I was going out walking, and then by the wonders of social media, people had said to me, "Oh, can I come walking with you?" So they did, and then I organised an event where I was doing the Yorkshire Three Peaks 4 times in 4 days to raise money for charity. Yeah, I won't do that again. Where I was going to raise money for charity, and I took 4 different groups, and I thought, right, I might do a first aid course, and I'd actually been on a navigation course to refresh some skills that I'd learned a while ago, with Rob Johnson, who made the film. So Rob as an expedition guide over in North Wales. And I'd actually got in touch with him because I wanted to go to Norway, do an expedition with him. Because for some reason I really enjoy the cold, enjoy them environments. And minus 25 in a tent.
Beautiful.
We laugh about it now. I didn't laugh at the time. So I've done certain courses, and then I did a first aid, and the lady on the first aid, Ellen Howe, who I now work for, said to me, "Why don't you do your mountain Why don't you do your mountain leader?" I went, "What's a mountain leader?" And this is, whether it's because I came from inner city Leeds and I've not sort of really looked into it, and then so mountain training, basically they're the awarding body that look after all the sort of the mountain training awards, which are seen as levels of competence that you've reached to gain that award. And they offer lots of things. So there's mountain leader, hill and moorland leader, lowland leader. And then you can move on, you get your mountain leader, you can move on to winter mountain leader. And then there's also the climbing side of it. So rock climbing instructor, climbing wall instructor, mountaineering and climbing instructor, etc. International mountain leader. So I took the mountain leader route. So I had to do 20 days. I had to prove that I'd done 20 days, which basically it's so when you go to training that you have got a level of competence so that you understand the training really. But you get so much out of it. I mean, I'll be honest, I only did the training because I think it was about £350. And I thought, I'm getting 6 days of training here. It's not like just booking an instructor, paying a day rate. I mean, you've been through the process yourself, haven't you? You've got mountain leader. Yeah. So that, going on that 6 days of training and finding it, learning navigation, night navigation, the campcraft, geology, start getting into the geology, the flora, the fauna, learn about weather systems. It's a comprehensive course if anyone's wanting to go and learn about the mountains or improve their skills. And then I left that and I thought, well, I'm not really bothered about being a mountain leader. Or I wasn't when I started the course. And I did the course in the October. And I found myself doing all my consolidation days. You've got to go do another 20 days before you can go gain the mountain leader award. And then you do a 5-day mountain leader award assessment. And I did that in the following April. So I did the consolidation within 6 months. I know I spent a lot of time at Lake District with frozen tent and things like that. But yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. And then started doing a bit of freelance work, freelance mountain work. And then that was taken away from this time working on the doors. So it was more, for me, it was more meditative time. Yeah. So I'm finding that I'm doing that. So I'm not having to spend as much time working on the doors. I'm getting paid for what I wanted to do. Getting paid for what my hobby was. As I think a wise man said, if you get paid for what you love doing as a hobby, you'll never work another day in your life.
That's it.
And then I just started ticking off the other awards. So I went, I started doing the single pitch. So I was doing some climbing, did the RCI, and then found out that I had enough days. I started doing winter days because I love Scotland. Scotland's got to be one of the best places in the world. In winter, it's amazing. And summer, I'm not such a big fan because of the midges. But yeah, so I did the winter training and then set off on the international down with BML. So that's British Association of International Mountain Leaders. Set off down the path with them. And it was just a realization, I've got enough days to do that because I've been on expeditions. So, and then done some solo trips and went down that route. And then the climbing sort of got my foundation climbing award, foundation coach. And then I was on the MCI path, mountaineering and climbing instructor, done the training and then broke my back. So, or had my back broken for me. So, and then a 2-year layoff because of COVID. So that one's one of them where, because I'm not as young as I used to be, it's one of them where it's a big decision time for me at the moment, whether I can get out and get them consolidation. It's a big award. And there's a lot of commitment.
Well, they're all pretty big, really, and that's what's so impressive. Somebody like you, when you hear, oh, this, and this, and for me, an ML, hill and moorland, again, first aid and stuff, and how much work has to go into getting these qualifications. Like very respectable achievements, that's for sure.
Well, do you know what the thing is? I didn't actually see while I was going through them. Obviously, I mean, my ML, I was nervous on the assessment, and then my winter mountain leader was probably the hardest one I've done. The winter mountain leader training I found harder than the assessment, because when I got to the assessment, I'm thinking, well, it's stressful, but it's not stressful as in the stress that I've had. In fact, when I did my IML, when I got my the winter IML, Simon Hale, who was he's a mountain guide, he sat me down afterwards, and it was quite funny because I'll always remember, he said, "You're not like most folk that we get on this." And it's really dry, He's like, "You're not like most folk." And what do you mean? Went, well, we had a guy who had an MBE. We had a guy that was a professor of engineering, and he went, "You're a bouncer from Leeds." I went, "Yeah, I know." And he says, "You don't seem to get stressed." He says, "This is a stressful situation. People don't get." And I says, "Well, no one's trying to stab me." And he went, "Oh, yeah, fair enough." Yeah. Because obviously I'd gone through all these incidents. I'd gone through the PTSD incident, but I'd gone through a lot of incidents while working the doors as well.
Yeah.
Being exposed to quite a lot of violent incidents. But then I sort of take these other things in my stride and not get too panicked about them. And I always says, "Well, have I passed?" He went, "Oh, yeah, you've passed." I went, "Oh, thank you." Yeah. So it's been a journey. It has been a journey. But what I also find is, if I'm not concentrating on some of them awards or gaining award, I can easily be misdirected, and I come off that path. Recently, I'm now I'm now as a course director for the Mountain Leader Award. So I work for a number of people, including Stephen Helen, who assessed me for my ML. Okay. So I work for them, and because I've got the international Mountain Leader and the winter Mountain Leader, then I can work as a course director. So I'm course directing Mountain Leader trainings and assessments, which I love, because I'm helping people on the same journey that I've been on. Yeah. And like I say, I didn't really have much direction at that time, as in, I want to be a mountain leader, I want to do this, I want to do that. I was just doing it. Yeah. But then it's opened up so many avenues. Yeah.
It does do that. It's crazy. I remember it took me 7 years from my training to assessment for my mountain leader, because of a rather not so nice training experience, actually. Right. But I went and did my hill and moorland in the middle, and then finally, thanks to mate's help, got myself to find the courage in April this year to do my assessment. But it's funny because you just step yourself back into that world, even just a toe, and it's suddenly like, oh my gosh, I can go anywhere with this. And it's just, it's really exciting. You really are completely able to sculpt your own future. As soon as you've got one or two of those qualifications under your belt, like people want to work with you, and there is work out there for everybody, in whatever shape or form you want, really.
Yeah, well, it's one of them where you pick which route you want to take, because there's so many customers to work with. Some people just do the challenges all the time.
Yeah.
Now, and I do some of them now and again. I sort of mix mine up because I work with the young people in the education intervention. I do the mountain leader stuff. Do the mountain training, hill and mountain skills, which is, it's good for getting people in. It's not a qualification, but it's a certificate, so people go away and have 2 or 3 days training and do that. And then obviously the rock climbing, I like to keep things quite varied, because I don't know, my brain sort of.
Yep. I relate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's one of the things where we sort of help ourselves as much as we're helping others. And I find it so rewarding. I do find it very rewarding. I know on one, I was doing a podcast for somebody, recording one before, and they said to me, what's the best moment of yours in the mountains? Because I've been to Patagonia, I've been to Himalayas, I've been to Africa, I've done all this. And it was actually when I got a text from a young lady who had done her training with me, and she'd passed her assessment. And it was the first person that had passed, and I was like, supposed to be this bouncer from Leeds, and I'm like, I'm gonna cry. It is very rewarding.
That's very special. Yeah. Well, you've just answered my my sort of rounding up question there, which is very impressive. You read my mind. No, so sort of to round this up then, what what would you say the future holds for you? Like, are you excited about it? Where are you hoping to channel your energy and your passion as the years continue to evolve?
Well, do you know what? So it's a funny one because I'm doing the White Fox Talking podcast, and I'm looking at all these different ways of and speaking about mental well-being with people. I mean, there's absolutely no money in it. It takes so much time and so much effort. So, I mean, hats off to yourself for doing this, because I know I've got two people. I work with Brad and Seb, who do all the technical side, because you've just seen me trying to do technology.
You got there. Come on, pat on the back. You said about that.
It's not for me. It's not for me. I just can't work it. I have a bit of a hangover with words. I don't really understand these things. So I don't know. I'm looking at that. But I'm also looking at doing a bit more international stuff for my own business, but
Nice.
continuing with the mountain leader. I mean, it's been a 3-year process, but I've just been given permission to work in Andorra as the first British international mountain leader to work in Andorra, apparently.
Oh,
but
congratulations!
It took such a long process, and then obviously that was all going through, and then the COVID hit, so I couldn't get over there to meet the government and things. So, but yeah, hopefully get some of that done. But I think for myself, it's mainly I think I'll keep my hopefully keep the course director. That's up to mountain training, I suppose, but keep delivering them courses because I find that really rewarding. And then look at some. I quite like introducing people to the hills and mountains rather than looking at the high level stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm going to get. I'm still thinking about the mountaineering and climbing instructor because I do enjoy the climbing. I do enjoy going out and doing them multi-pitch climbs, hanging off stuff and taking mad pictures, and people are like, wow. I'm like, well, no, I'm on the rope, I'm safe. So hopefully get that. But we'll just see. I mean, it's one of the things that life's what happens between making plans, isn't it? That's the thing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, well, we'll see.
Exactly.
Although, as I mentioned earlier, I've just I managed to get down on one knee on Penny again. So I will get married in a couple of years.
That's very exciting.
It's very exciting. I mean, Kirsty was in shock. She didn't believe me for the full day. You know, it was like, well, it is on Penny again, and it is on Yorkshire Day. I'm not going to mess about. This is a serious matter.
Oh man, no, massive congratulations.
Thank you. Well, my youngest daughter says, "Dad, you're actually going to have to grow up." So
it's getting serious now. Goodness me.
I'm not too sure about growing up. You know, you've got to keep a lighter side of life on you.
Absolutely. Well, it's all really exciting, and I will enthusiastically be following along, see where you end up, and I commend you for the work that you're doing, and I definitely resonate with that.
And yourself, Abbie.
Thank you.
Don't be saying thank. Don't be commending other people without giving yourself a pat on the back.
All right.
And hopefully you'll be coming on the White Fox Talking podcast in the future.
Oh, I'd take that up. That'd be great.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed listening to your show. I find it's I love the humorous side to it as well. It's brilliant. So
yeah, there's a bit of a weird Yorkshire sense of humour and stuff. Yeah.
My family is actually from Yorkshire. We originate from Otley.
Oh, really?
So
Otley, that's on the road.
Otley, exactly. Yeah.
Up on Chevy.
Yeah, Yorkshire blood through and through.
All right, cool.
Just down on Exmoor now. But anyway, should we jump into our 10 quick fire questions?
Oh, so pressure.
No pressure. My questions are quick, but your answers don't have to be. That's where we lose the pressure. So, all right, are you ready?
I'm sort of ready.
We'll take it. Okay, first question. What was the last book that you read and loved?
Read or listened to?
Either.
I'll be honest, it was The Body Keeps the Score on Audible. So, like I say, really good. The Audibles. First of all, because of the Yorkshire thing, I look for the ones that are longer, so I'm getting more hours for my money.
Absolutely.
But I found that it had been recommended to me, and I found it's very enlightening for myself after what I've been through. I'd recommend it to anyone, but I suppose it depends what stage you are in your development. I don't try not to say recovery from PTSD and stuff. I try and say development from wherever your diagnosis.
It's a nice reframe. I like that.
Yeah. Well, recovery itself.
Yeah.
Right phrasing. We need to move away from all these phrases that sort of say that you diagnose it, you've got a diagnosis. Is that a bad thing? No, it's the start point. It's the start point of developing from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good. Okay, question 2. Are you a morning or an evening person?
Evening, 100%.
Brilliant.
I worked nights for 25 years.
I just could not do that.
Yeah.
I'm all about the morning, and come like 4 o'clock, I'm done.
Yeah, if I have to do work, admin work, I get the computer out at 10 o'clock. Kirsty goes mad. She's like, no.
Well, respect, we're all different. Okay, question 3, definitely a different question. If you were reincarnated as an ice cream flavor, what flavor would you be?
Well, first of all, I would have to. Oh, well, this is flavor, and not ice cream.
Yeah,
because I took the vow of veganism about 18 years ago. Yeah. Although I took the vow of dairy free about 10 years ago, I would probably be rum and raisin.
Brilliant.
Or mint chocolate chip. Or yeah, quite
just the whole shop. Oh, coconut.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's made out of coconut milk now. So.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, good choice. I like. Okay, question 4, which I now can't see because Zoom is telling me I'm running out of time. Here we go. What did you want to be as you were growing up?
Oh, you're gonna laugh. I wanted to be either an assassin or a stuntman.
That's pretty cool. I mean, the stuntman bit.
Well, to be fair, I think working on the doors, I fulfilled some of it. Not quite to the level of an assassin, but in a home office approved manner.
Absolutely. Yeah. Got the badge.
Yeah. I've still got the badge. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Halfway question. What is your most unusual talent?
I can wiggle my ears.
Can you? Oh, wow. That's impressive. That is a first on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Forgetting that. I don't know what else I've got really. An unusual.
I mean, that's quite special.
Yeah, well, I can down a pint of Guinness in one, but that's not a claim to fame really, after what I've been. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we'll park that one.
That's that. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Okay. Next question. Who has inspired you the most in your life?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many, but they would be probably the people that have sort of steered my mountain life. So Rob Johnson, Steve Howe, Helen Howe. Yeah, these sort of people. Yeah. Well, there's so many, but they are all sort of mountain people. Great, good instructors that are just nice people. Nice folk, and they just don't see that they're inspiring people. Yeah.
Something to be said for nice people.
Yeah, nice folk that you can get on with, but
exactly.
They just give knowledge away. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Okay. When you're 80 years old, looking back on your life, what will matter to you the most?
My children, my grandson, my wife. Oof, wife.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I think my friends and family, and hopefully the experiences that I've been able to share with them. That hopefully, because some people, I've taken friends out that about the walking, and they're like, I don't know how you do this all the time, but they are afterwards. The 3 types of fun. The 3 types of fun. Yeah. Well, usually they're having a level 2. They're having a type 2 fun out, but then they realise afterwards. So.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, deep and meaningful. What's your favourite food?
Broccoli.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see that.
You have a broccoli tattoo. That is the most incredible thing.
So I like disco and I like broccoli, so I've got a dancing broccoli.
That is wow. What can I say, Mark?
Is that another first for your podcast?
That is a first, yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, I do like broccoli. Yeah.
Broccoli is a beautiful vegetable. Yeah.
It can be done in so many ways.
I approve of the brassica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really wonderful.
Absolutely. Okay, this one might be tough. What is your favorite outdoor space?
So many. So many. Well, like I said before, Scotland in winter. It's amazing. Although I did rather enjoy Patagonia as well. I don't know, so many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I'd just say the outdoors, really.
Cool. We'll take that, given that, most of these
I'm
episodes we talk about the outdoors, so that's absolutely fine.
I'm getting into the outdoor swimming and not like a lot of people.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do the cold stuff as well. I've been doing that since January.
Jeez,
Ice baths and everything. So
yeah. Well, I did a 10-degree ice bath when I was in Iceland, and that was enough. Thank you.
How was that? Yeah. No, get in the bath with 10 kilos of ice and
beautiful.
Lay there for 20 minutes.
Where do you get 10 kilograms of ice from?
This is the problem. I can go pick it up from one of the bars in Leeds.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because they've got an ice machine rather than using the plastic.
I see. Yeah.
And then I don't have to pay for it as well. So.
Beautiful. You got this all worked out. I like it.
Of course, yeah.
Nice one. All right, final question. Are there any catchphrases or mantras that you live your life by?
I don't know, really. I don't know. No, I do have a lot of little sayings, but I can't really think of any at the minute. I do believe in sort of expanding your horizons and moving, helping people moving the parameters a little bit at a time until they've moved, a long way without them realizing. One thing I do use, is, and I use it sort of for the mental health or the mental well-being, and also in the mountains, when people are struggling, you've got your eyes on the foot, you've got your eyes on the summit. But if you need to stop halfway, take a look at how far you've walked. Because you've got to take encouragement from how far you've come. It's not how far you're going. Yeah. It's not always how far you're going.
Yeah. I like that. So, look back. Yeah. That's kind of
look cool. Back and take encouragement from how far you've come.
Exactly.
Get people in both respects with the mental well-being and the mountains. People are just like, I can't go on. Well, look how far you've come and take encouragement from that. Take a little. It's all right to take a breather. Not too many breathers, but so a lot of breathers slows things down. But I think people should take more encouragement from where they've come, apart from, and not just setting the targets or someone else setting their targets. It's taking encouragement from where you've come.
Yeah, no, I love that, and that's a really nice note to end today's episode on. So I want to just say thank you for your honesty, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Abbie.
It's really incredible and powerful what you're doing, and as I say, I look forward to following along and seeing where you end up next, and just keep going.
Thank you for providing the opportunity to talk about mental wellbeing, because there's not, we are a growing number.
That's it.
We are a growing number, and it is good. There's a lot of good people out there, but thank you for the opportunity, and you keep what you're doing, because it's pretty cool.
Thank you very much. Let's keep going. Love it. Cool, Mark. All right, you take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Man, what an inspirational person Mark is. I just so respect his honesty and authenticity, particularly when it comes to talking about mental health and the current worldwide situations, shall we say, that we're all having to deal with on a daily basis. It's a tough world out there, and I think we have to be honest about how it impacts us on a day-to-day basis. We have to support each other through these conversations, and as Mark is a big advocate of, as am I, to get outside and immerse ourselves in nature, because it really does have the power to do wonders for our mental well-being and our sense of overall wholeness. So I hope this episode has left you feeling motivated to get outside. If you're not already outside listening to this episode on a walk or a run or a cycle or something like that, immerse yourself in nature. Be still and take in all the beautiful sounds and colours around you. If you have to move because it's a commute to work, then move, tap into your body. But really just be mindful in that experience, because you know what? We are nature. We are not separate from nature. And I fundamentally believe personally that living separate from nature is one of the things that can really be a big trigger for a poor sense of mental well-being. So dive in deep, get immersed, get your hands in the soils, get your boots muddy, and have fun most of all, because you know what? Life is short, so we've got to make the most of it. Now, to wrap this thing up, I want to say one final word of thanks to everybody within my Patreon community. You know what? It is absolutely groundbreaking to have this Patreon platform, this worldwide network of beautiful, inspirational people on board with helping me to run wild and inspire and empower people to get outside. There are so many different things to get stuck in with within this platform, and I really just want to encourage you guys to check it out if you haven't already. That is patreon.com/spend more time in the wild. And one final shout out of thanks to everybody within my producer tier. So that is Rachel Lawrence, James Gordon, Stephen Herbert, and Simon Woodburn. You guys rock. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you soon, and until then,